Hi, this is Robert, and I am the Recovery Guy. And in the words of my dear friend Slow Will, I am a happy, grateful, recovered alcoholic. And I hope that you would expect that of someone who's been clean and sober the amount of time that I have. So understand when I tell you that I am happy, grateful, and recovered, it's not because of who I am. It's because it's what the plan of recovery allows. And I hope that your expectation would be that someone who's been around as long as I have, over 30 years now, that I would have found happiness, because God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. That I am filled with gratitude, because every day is a new day to demonstrate the omnipotence of God in my life and the joy that I have because of my recovery. And three, I am recovered. You know, in the foreword to the first edition, the first 100 people wrote that we recover from a hopeless state of mind and body. And they wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to show us how we too can recover. So at Recovery Guy, that's what we do. But we don't just talk about not drinking and not using. We talk about becoming joyful. We talk about life-changing ideas and situations that allow us to go from just not drinking to using to a life that is truly recovered. One of the ways we do that, and just a real quick plug here, is by offering materials on our website. Jeff has provided links so you can get the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, that you can even get a 12 steps and 12 tradition that in more detail talk to you about the steps. And then if you are Narcotics Anonymous, here's the basic text of NA, a great book. And so whether you're overeating, whether you're a compulsive gambler, whether it's pornography, we'll provide materials on our website that you can order directly from there. One of the things that we need to remember, regardless of the program that we're primarily engaged in, the 12 steps of recovery are pretty consistent. One of the things that's very consistent, and what I want to talk to you about today, is going from despair to gratitude. You know, when we get here, you know, again, it talks about a hopeless state of mind and body. We are broken, we are hopeless, we are morally bankrupt, we are bankrupt in every conceivable way. Most of us even financially bankrupt, but we are emotionally bankrupt, we are mentally tired, our relationships for most of us are a disaster. I mean, if you come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and you've got a few dollars left and you haven't lost your job and you're still married or living in the same household as your significant other, and you still have some friends around you or family that will speak with you, you're so far ahead of the game. Hopefully you're grateful even for that reason. But still, there's a particular degree of despair that we come into. Some of us, Bill talks about incomprehensible demoralization, a depth of despair and darkness that a number of us know. Maybe many of you who are watching this segment today, you understand exactly what Bill was talking about when he talked about incomprehensible demoralization. We are so beaten down, our despair is so deep, our life is so dark that most of us have given up hope or a sense of hope that anything would ever change. But as we come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and we begin to incorporate the steps in our life and we begin to talk to our sponsor and we begin to work the steps and listen to what other people are sharing in our meetings, whether it's an open topic meeting or a speaker meeting, we understand that there's a place for us to go from our despair. You know, our stories disclose in a general way what it used to be like, and that was despair. What happened, we found some hope, and what it's like today, we're living in that hope. And as a result of all that, we've gone from despair of ever having solved this whole problem to the gratitude of living in the solution. We have to make that transition, because who wants to live in despair? You know, one of the most sad things I've ever seen in my life of recovery is seeing a person who's been clean and sober a number of years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years, and yet they're still living in a degree of despair. That's not what AA or NA or the other programs are about. It's about freedom. You know, the big book says that we are not a glum lot. Again, we are sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. And if we are happy, joyous, and free, then there has to be a sense of gratitude. We need to be grateful for what we've been given. We need to be grateful for where we're at. We need to be grateful to the people of Alcoholics Anonymous, whether we agree with them or not. They're there for a reason. They're there to share a message that we need to take into, incorporate into our life. We need to be grateful that a loving God has expressed himself in our group conscious, and that upon agreement of that group conscious, we can, as Bill talked about, join in brotherly and harmonious action. We have to become grateful. We have to move from that despair to that gratitude. You know, when I was early sober, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 months going in, my life was still like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It was just a wild roller coaster, and I was up and I was down and I was down and I was up, and some days didn't make any sense, and even the days that made sense didn't make sense because I wasn't working the steps. That was the biggest deal. But I remember walking into the Alano Club where I got sober, and I was going to walk in and see my sponsor Jack, and I happened to bump into this guy named Al, and Al had been sober, I think, about 19 years at the time. And as I was talking to Al, I was telling him about how bad my day was going. You know how we get on that pity pot and we want people to jump on that pity bandwagon? As I was telling Al all about my day and how bad things were going, I got to the end of it all, and I was waiting for him to agree with me. And I got to the end of my story, and he said, "But are you grateful?" And I looked at him and I said, "Dude, what are you talking about? Do you just hear anything I said? Did you hear how bad my life is? And you've got the nerve to ask if I'm grateful?" And before I could get that out, Al said, "Robert, you have to understand, if you're here today and you haven't drank and you haven't used, you have a reason to be grateful." And he asked me how many days in a row I'd been sober, and I told him, it might have been, 180, it might have been, 220, I forget what the day was. But he said, "Are you grateful for that?" And I stopped and said, "Well, yeah, Al, I am grateful." And he looked at me and he put his finger up and he said, "You better be." And he went on to gently explain to me that the depth and the degree of my gratitude today will ensure two things: the quality and the length of my sobriety going into tomorrow. And what a great lesson that was for me. And it's not to say that even after 30 years, there's not days where I feel a little discouraged and feel a little bit of despairing in my life. But I have learned how to quickly look at the other side of the coin. And here's the reality. No matter what's going on in my life, I guarantee you it beats the alternative. And if you don't think life can be worse, watch the news for 5 minutes. Go out to a mall and take a look around you and see the hollow and the shallow lives that so many people live. And then look at your life. Look at where we come from. Look at the depths of despair we come from, and look at where we're at today. Regardless of where that is for you, look at where you're at today and become grateful for what you have. Become grateful for what you've been given. Be grateful for what you don't have to go through. And when you can develop that mindset, every day becomes a little bit better. And I guarantee you, it was a promise that was given to me by Jack and Will and Scott and Buddy and Slick Eddie and Max and Gus, the countless friends that I've gotten on my journey of recovery. They said, "Robert, if you just stick it out, if you just hang around, if you just stay in the boat, if you just understand how important it is to be grateful, how to go share the message of gratitude, how to share the message of joy that you've been given through the program of recovery, You know, Bill said when we stopped living in the problem, when we started living in the solution, the problem seemed to go away in itself. So when I stop living in despair and I start living into gratitude, you know what happens? Despair just sort of goes away. So to move from that, what I want you to do is on a daily basis, I want you to have a gratitude list. You probably have heard this before, and if you have and you're not doing it, do it. And if you've never heard it, please start. But I want you to write down what's going on in your day-to-day and become grateful for those things. And if you need to, go back and do another first step. You know, we come into the program of recovery and, you know, we understand our powerlessness and how our life had become unmanageable. Look at now, if you've been around for a while, the power that you've been given back and how manageable, according to God and His economy, how manageable your life has become. And if that's not enough to help you go from despair to gratitude, then give Jeff or me a call at Recovery Guy. Let us walk you through, let us help you more directly and more personally understand the value and the avenue to go from despair to gratitude. And while you're at it, if there's a topic that you want Jeff or me to cover on Recovery Guy, or if you want us to go a little bit deeper in one of the audio podcasts or the video segments that we record, let us know what that looks like so we can make sure that that we incorporate what's important to you into what we're trying to share. At Recovery Guy, we go from broken to whole, and we do that together. Thank you for your time. My name is Robert.